Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu. And tonight I'm going to continue the reading of Satipatthana Sutta. The first part, which is mindfulness of body, which has already been read by Mr. Shubham. And tonight he was unable to join us. Now we'll continue reading the same sutta. And before starting this sutta, I just want to what is sati? Which is the main part that we in our practice. Sati is the mindfulness. Bhante would give the definition of mindfulness as remembering to observe how mind's attention moves from one thing to another. And this observation, like remembering where the mind is, what's happening. And in this sutta, Buddha has clearly mentioned, like, there are so many ways wherein our mindfulness can be established, knowing what we are doing, and what is happening internally or externally, what's the context that is happening, what's the feeling that is happening, what's happening in our mind, what's happening in our body, what's happening in the mind objects, that's dhamma that is happening, where we put effort of the 6 hours and make an effort to understand the dhamma. And today we are going to take up the feeling of the part where the foundation, mindfulness of feeling. And we are taking in part like first body, then feeling, then the mind, and the mind objects. But actually, when we keep this in our practice, all these things are like happening if we keep attention, if we do not keep attention as well. They keep happening while we are meditating. There is body, there is feeling, there is the mind, and there is the mind object. Even in first jhana, in whichever jhana you are, while you are practicing walking meditation, you have the body, you have the feeling, you have the mind. What are the objects that are happening in the mind? You have the mind objects as well. The only thing is there is this mindfulness part that is missing. So here the Buddha gives the clear explanation of mindfulness. What is the mindfulness of feeling that we need to observe? I'll be reading from Bhikkhu Bodhi translation. And how bhikkhus does the bhikkhu abide, contemplating feelings as feelings? Here, when feeling a pleasant feeling, a bhikkhu understands, I feel a pleasant feeling. When feeling a painful feeling, he understands, I feel a painful feeling. When feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he understands, I feel a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So until here, Buddha is saying, okay, when you're feeling, there can be 3 kinds of feelings. It can be pleasant, it can be unpleasant, it can be painful, or it can be neither painful nor pleasant feeling. And then what the Buddha says is, when feeling a worldly pleasant feeling, he understands, I feel a worldly pleasant feeling. When feeling an unworldly pleasant feeling, he understands, I feel an unworldly pleasant feeling. So what is this worldly pleasant feeling? This worldly pleasant feeling is when we are indulged in our sensual pleasures, the external things, that is when we see a beautiful picture, or when we have nice sunrise that's happening and we see and we delight in that, when we hear to pleasant music through ear contact, and then when we taste some chocolate cake or something, then we have a taste that is, we feel pleasant in it, that it is externally. This is worldly pleasant feelings. And what is the unworldly pleasant feeling. This unworldly pleasant feeling is when we sit down, smile, and meditate. When we first 6 hours, the hindrances, then we have happiness that is pleasant. This is unworldly pleasant feeling. This feeling cannot be found in the world. That's why it is unworldly. When feeling a worldly painful feeling, he understands. I feel worldly painful feeling. When feeling unworldly painful feeling, he understands. I feel an unworldly painful feeling. Okay, so here they are talking, Buddha is talking about worldly painful feeling. It is when we see some disgusting pictures, maybe some body that's rotten or some dead body, some corpse. We don't feel pleasant, it feels unpleasant. And when we have some bitter taste, then we feel unpleasant feelings, worldly painful feeling. And then when we get hurt, that is also worldly painful feeling. And what is unworldly painful feeling? This unworldly painful feeling is when you are sitting in meditation, you have sat for an hour, and then you will feel like, okay, now my back is starting to ache. I'll just wake up. Now it's enough. Then that painful feeling that you're feeling is the unworldly painful feeling. See, while meditating, when you have that feeling that, okay, this is painful, the moment you start naming it, I am feeling this painful feeling, then you're adding that I, which is the Atta, myself, then you will not be able to sit any more longer in your meditation. So we advise you to 6 hour that feeling. 6 hour it and make it as a hindrance. And when feeling a worldly, neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he understands. I feel a worldly, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. When feeling an unworldly, neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he understands. I feel an unworldly, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. So the worldly, neither painful nor pleasant feeling is we feel like, okay, I don't care, or it's okay, whatever happens, it will happen. It's like that. And when feeling unworldly, neither painful nor pleasant feeling, it is the equanimity of mind that we are experiencing. And we can see all the way through this contemplation of feeling, there is always a word used as a bhikkhu understands or a student understands. This understanding, that knowing that we are experiencing this pleasant feeling or painful feeling, this knowing is the mindfulness aspect. And keeping this mindfulness going, there's always body, there's always feeling, there's always mind, there is always mind objects. So the feeling is always happening. We can't say that, okay, now I'm just reading the book, there is no more feeling that I could experience. But still, there is a feeling that I'm experiencing when you are listening to the talk. If you listen it with a nice observation, like having putting all your attention on this, you might experience some kind of understanding. And this understanding or the experience that you're having is also having feeling, is also having mind, and the mind objects you starting to understand. That is also happening because the mindfulness aspect is here. You are knowing what you're listening to. This mindfulness, this sutta is like the core teaching. And this sati, the in the part of eightfold path, which is the seventh part of the eightfold path. This sati is revolving like circles around Samma, right view and right speech, right action, and right mindfulness. All these things are interlinked. If you have mindfulness, then only you will know, okay, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. Your vision starts. And then if you have mindfulness, then you know if the speech that you're going to speak is right or wrong. If you're mindful, if you're getting angry, you don't get into harsh speech. Rather, you sit silent, come back and keep silent, or maybe speak with kind words. The insight of feeling. In this way, he abides, contemplating feelings as feeling internally, or he abides, contemplating feelings as feelings externally, or he abides, contemplating feelings as feelings both internally and externally. The internal feelings that we are feeling, okay, this is pleasant, this is unpleasant. We know this is pleasant, this is unpleasant. The contemplation that we are thinking, okay, this is nice, this is not nice. We are knowing this, okay, this needs to be zigzag, this is wholesome thing that we have doing. This is that aspect. And what is this? Internally, we are knowing, and the external feelings, okay, because the conditions are like this, because I hurt myself, now I am feeling this pain. This is because of the external reasons we have this feeling. And it can be both internal and external, because the causes and conditions are like that, because I behaved in such a way, both internally, my reason, and the external causes and conditions. This feeling is being present in this knowing, the mindfulness part of internal or external, or both internal and external. Or else he abides, contemplating in feelings, their nature of arising, or he abides, contemplating in feelings, their nature of vanishing, or he abides, contemplating in feelings, their nature of both arising and vanishing. Here we can see the arising and passing away, which is the dependent origination part. When we have feeling, then that feeling will not be like that as long as we hold on to it or we want them to be. Rather, it keeps changing. When the feeling changes, we know that this feeling is now there. Okay, now it's gone. Now the other feeling has come up. That knowing, that mindfulness that this is there, this is not there, this has come and this hasn't come yet. This is the dependent origination. Because of this condition, this has arisen, and because of that, this has arisen. He knows, he abides, contemplating feeling, their nature of vanishing. That the nature of vanishing, that is the understanding of the impermanence of the feeling as well. Or he abides, contemplating in feelings, their nature of both arising and vanishing. Knowing that if it's been originated, then it will come to an end. Then the next other feeling will come and they arise and they pass away. Or else mindfulness that there is feeling is simply established in him to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness, and he abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. This is how a bhikkhu abides, contemplating feelings as feelings. So while we are meditating, what happens? We sit, we start to stay with the object of meditation. We start radiating loving kindness to six direction, to spiritual friend or the object of meditation. Then we ask ourselves to stay with the feeling, with the mindfulness that the feeling is there. And then there can be background thoughts that is happening. And the mindfulness that the feeling is there is necessary, to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness. Because of this phrase, to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness, we could able to meditate. We can understand what is happening in our practice. While we are meditating, okay, I'm with the object of meditation, and then the background thoughts come in. I know that the mindfulness aspect, through this mindfulness aspect, I know that the feeling of loving kindness is still present and my attention is still on the object, not on the background thoughts. Or I could hear other sounds or other maybe vehicles on the road that are moving. But my mindfulness, for a moment, even it goes there, but it still knows that there is the object of meditation and the mindfulness is feeling, having that feeling of loving kindness. This is the Satipatthana of contemplation of feeling. I don't know if I could complete the whole sutta, but maybe I'll continue with the contemplation of the mind as well. We'll see if we can complete this now. And contemplation of the mind objects. This is a bigger part. Maybe some other Sunday when I have time, I could expound, or if Shubham wills, he can join us in some other day. We will start reading with contemplation of the mind. And how bhikkhus does a bhikkhu abide, contemplating mind as mind? Here a bhikkhu understands mind affected by lust as mind affected by lust, and mind unaffected by lust as mind unaffected by lust. He understands mind affected by hate as mind affected by hate. He understands mind affected by delusion as mind affected by delusion, and mind unaffected by delusion as mind unaffected by delusion. And we can see here, this is the mindfulness that having the lust, hatred, and delusion. Or we can also say having any of the hindrances. If there is a hindrance, we have this mindfulness which helps us. If we are mindful, then we can let go of it, we can siksar it and come back to the walking on the eightfold path. He understands contracted mind as contracted mind and distracted mind as distracted mind. So when the mind is having a hindrance, what happens? There is a contraction that happens. There's the tension and tightness that's happening. Whenever we have this mindfulness, then we know that, okay, this mind is now has been distracted. What we need to do is siksar it, relax, and come back. He understands exalted mind as exalted mind and unexalted mind as unexalted mind. I clearly did not understand this phrase as well. We'll ask Bhante when he joins us. He understands surpassed mind as surpassed mind and unsurpassed mind as unsurpassed mind. This is that knowing that the mind is in Rupa Jana, where you have this body, and first four jhanas when you experience, then you say that your mind is surpassed, which is let go of the hindrances and experiencing the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and the fourth jhana. He understands collected mind as collected mind and uncollected mind as uncollected mind. Here, when the mind gets to stay with the object of meditation, then the person meditating understands that, okay, now the mind has certain amount of stability and it knows that it's in which arupa jhana it is, and one can estimate the time that has stayed in that object. It's pretty long, like maybe more than 2 or 3 minutes, then the mind gets collected on that object. He understands liberated mind as liberated mind and unliberated mind as unliberated mind. It is, we know that now the mind is like radiating and has this feeling that's wholesome, and the mind is collected and everything is happening well and good. If that is happening, then we know. How do we know? Because we have this mindfulness, then we are knowing this. And if there is unliberated mind, how do we know? We have this mindfulness aspect. Because of this, we are knowing that where the mind is. We are knowing what's happening in the mind. What's happening is next, which is the contemplation of the mind objects. We'll have it later. The insight of the contemplation of the mind. In this way, he abides, contemplating mind as mind internally, or he abides, contemplating mind as mind externally, or he abides, contemplating mind as mind both internally and externally. Okay, here knowing that what state the mind is, if the mind is contracted, if the mind is distracted, this is knowing internally. The external aspects, when we see some other person who is angry or who is in stress, we can know that their mind is contracted. We can know if they are into the hindrance, if they are enjoying the sensual pleasures. We can know that knowing is also through our mindfulness, knowing what type of contacts they are experiencing, what feeling or what craving, the way they are behaving. This is externally. And sometimes it's both internally and externally. We know this only through our practice of mindfulness. And because we are being practicing the meditation, because we are on the path of the Dhamma, on the Eightfold Path, because of this, we are able to know it both internally and externally. When we sit down, we are experiencing internally. When we are out in the world, both internally, externally, maybe sometimes only externally we are understanding. All this is connected, and the mindfulness is also happening. Or else he abides, contemplating in mind its nature of arising, or he abides, contemplating in mind its nature of vanishing, or he abides, contemplating in mind its nature of both arising and vanishing. We can see here, if the mind is contracted, if I say, okay, the mind is contracted, I don't want it, it will not stay. So it will change and it will maybe become something else. And if I say, if it's pleasant, if the mind is unaffected by lust, greed, and delusion, and if the mind is in liberated state, still if I want that, okay, I want that, wanting to be that mind in that state is also not, it's not our control, which is also impermanent. And if I say so, it is suffering to me. If I attach an I, sense of self, then is also, it's suffering to me. And seeing this mind as mind and knowing that this is impermanent, suffering, and this is non-self, and seeing the nature of its arising and passing away, the impermanence nature of it, one knows it that this is impermanent. This knowing is also happening through our mindfulness. Or else mindfulness that there is mind is simply established in him to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness, and he abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. This is how a bhikkhu abides, contemplating mind as mind. Okay, now this is more towards the practice of meditation, wherein we know that the mind is there. It's like a quiet mind state where you experience only the mind and nothing other than it, where we have this mindfulness and the knowledge what's the mind object of the mind is, that's the knowing. And we are knowing this through our mindfulness, knowing that the mind is in the state of nothingness, maybe quiet mind is the state of mind, which is the way the mind is. And to the extent necessary, we can't like keep thinking, okay, is the mind is in that state, should I hold on to, or should I want it to go to the next step? There is not. Here we have mindfulness established to the extent necessary. We don't keep on thinking or look at it with a zooming in mind or something. Rather, we are just seeing it as it is, not adding to it, not zooming in or zooming out of it. And he abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. Here we are doing only the meditation, like knowing what the mind is doing, where the mind is. This knowing, which is independent, when we do not have like this perception of, okay, because of that person I'm experiencing this, uh, this dependency is not there. Because of that condition that happened, this is been happening to me. There's nobody to blame, or there's nobody to depend on. This is independent of anything that is outside, maybe internally as well. This is independent of whatever we are experiencing because it's all conditionally applied. Non-clinging is the aspect where I just said this. We do not have that aspect where we start blaming others for what we are experiencing, where we don't create that story behind, okay, that mind starts proliferation, and then we do not feel any comfortable feeling, we start blaming others. Okay, now these all things doesn't happen because we are on the path of the Dhamma. We know what the mindfulness is, what's the right path, what is wholesome, what is unwholesome. This is how a bhikkhu abides, contemplating mind as mind. And this is where we come to know what the state of mind is. And when I first found out that this four Satipathanas, that is foundations of mindfulness, body, feeling, mind, and mind objects, all these, we cannot practice it individually. All these are happening if we know, or if we do not put our mindfulness as well. All these are happening. If we have our mindfulness, then we come to know that, okay, this is happening with our body, this is happening with our feeling, this is with the mind, this is with the mind objects. And that's so wonderful that when I keep reading these suttas, the way it helps me in the practice of the Dhamma is very like beautiful, and it's so practical. I keep repeating this phrase practical because the Buddha was so much, he was enlightened, and all these teachings that we are having today, it still works because the mind is the same thing that the Buddha has got the insight of all this dependent origination and how should one train this mind. And sometimes I feel like our mind is kind of a software which I started to learn, and it has so many different programmings, and I'm starting to learn each of the part of it. And okay, forgiveness is a part, mindfulness is a part, and all of these parts, and they work so well together. Sister Kema would also say they are like intertwined together like a cloth wherein all the weaves are, all the threads have been sewn so well that all of them fit together to the blocks of the puzzle. And this is what I would like to offer for today, the mindfulness, contemplation of feeling and contemplation of mind. Anybody has any question, or anybody would like to share anything regarding the practice? Yes, May?
I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Mrs. Sindhu. Very nice reading. Just a bit of sharing. I find it very useful whenever I notice all the mind is creating stories or carried away. Usually, I'm not smiling anymore. So at that point in time, I find that the most effective, quickest solution, I don't know about other people, but at least for what I experience, the quickest solution to cut that storytelling is just smile. So just even if I don't feel like smiling, I just force myself or whatever, like fake it first, and then immediately it's like stop. So I find it's very effective. So I just thought to share that. The other sutta I really enjoy, and I think but this could be just my personal opinion at this point in time, is the Majjhima Nikaya 18, Madhupindika Sutta. I find that pairs very nicely with a lot of other suttas, for example, this one, because in the Madhupindika Sutta, right from the beginning, when the Buddha was having a discussion with, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Dandapani or something, the king? And the one who was upset at him and was leaning on the cane and then walked away. Right from the beginning of the story, why it leaves a strong imprint in my brain is that story really summarizes that the Buddha says there's no point in quarreling or fighting with anyone at all because of how dependent origination works. Simply because of how the six sense days work. So personally, just to offer my own sharing at this point in time, of course, I find Madhupindika Sutta, this sutta, Satipatthana Sutta, and Chachaka Sutta are very like they support each other very nicely. So I just thought I'd want to share this here. Sorry.
Nice. Thank you, May, for sharing. And I find this, like, as you shared, there is one more sutta where this mindfulness of, the right mindfulness, samasati. This is MN117, where the right view and right mindfulness and right speech, right action, all these are circled around. And it's so beautiful that we cannot even practice the eightfold path taking only one part of it. Like, okay, today I'll practice only right speech or right action. And it's really difficult for us to take only one part of it and keep practicing. Rather than if we take all the aspects of it and just keep practicing, then we'll keep understanding what is happening, what's the right thing, what's the wrong thing. And the way Bhante Vimalaramsi has given us the 6 stars, which fits exactly in the eightfold path. And it's so beautiful. I have this as well. MN117 is Mahachattari Sakka Sutta. I just like to quote a few sentences from that, where the Buddha says, thus these three qualities, right view, right effort, right mindfulness, run and circle around right view. We can see this right view that we are having, that this is impermanent, this is suffering, and this is non-self. And the right effort, the 6 Rs, and right mindfulness, all these circle around the right view. And thus these three qualities, right view, right effort, right mindfulness, run and circle around right thought. Thus these three qualities, right view, right effort, right mindfulness, run and circle around right speech. Thus these three qualities, right view, right effort, right mindfulness, run and circle around right action. Thus these three qualities, right view, right effort, right mindfulness, run and circle around right livelihood. Herein we can see how this eightfold path is all interlinked. Right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, and right mindfulness. When we do all of this and till the right mindfulness, then the right collectedness along with the right mindfulness get established, where the mind enters into collectedness, concentration, or samadhi. Anybody would like to share in regarding their practice?
So just to also, I find that because I've been watching some TEDx talks as well, I find it interesting and easier to remember a sutta if I know the story leading to the sutta. So it's kind of like the brain. Everybody likes stories. Children especially like stories. So I wonder if whenever we read suttas, is there a way to find the some of these suttas we know the story before, but quite a lot of, like in the introduction part, there's like let's say the accountant Ganaka Moggallana went to see the Buddha, or Dandapani or Anathapindika. It's a very nice introduction into the sutta. For me, I find it is easier to remember the sutta rather than Majjhima Nikaya number. I'm not such an expert at that level yet. So I just wondering.
Yes, it's difficult to remember in that way. Actually, I have a few stickers that I stick. You can see here that's showing a white tape thing, wherein I wrote that 3 characteristics of existence: impermanence. Whenever I try to open this cupboard, my eyes just have a glance over it, and if my mind is not mindful enough, then that glance makes me know that okay, there is impermanence, there is suffering, there is non-self. And I stick this all over my home, wherever my eye contact is going to happen, to the doors, maybe at the cupboard, maybe in the kitchen. And even I have this, I cannot remember the suttas names or the story, but the content is like they get imbued in our practice. That's the most important thing that I find. Any sutta you take, even if you don't remember the preface or what happened in the end, what happened, but the middle part where the Buddha teaches the whole teaching, the context of the sutta, which we actually take it into our practice, it is very much important. Okay, there is a preface of the story, what happened. It's easy for us to remember through the story as well. But it's okay if we even do not remember, because we know the practice, we are practicing it. And it's okay, I feel. And the practice is more important to be for us to keep walking on the path of the Eightfold Path.
Yeah, completely agree. The other thing the other day I just had a thought. So sometimes I have thoughts about, it'd be nice if we cover a topic on this or a topic on that. I suddenly had a thought on whether there's a sutta, doesn't have to be Majjhima Nikaya, can be any of the Nikayas, but on gratitude. So I know we touch on gratitude once in a while, because whether the story is true or whether it's fictitious, so the story goes that when the Buddha gained enlightenment and, he had a lot of gratitude, he had the paean of joy, and then because there was no one around, the story goes is the Buddha gazed at the Bodhi tree for 7 days without blinking his eye, which is a form of very high gratitude expression. So of course, people can debate whether that story is true or not, but the point is, I think, the emphasis of gratitude. So I think nowadays, when people talk about mindfulness, some of these external speakers sometimes link it to the practice of gratitude. Even Sister Kema at one time tried to ask us, it'd be nice every night if we can journal, write down 3 things that we are grateful for. I think she mentioned this before as a good practice. So I was just wondering, if it's worth, I don't know what's the fastest way, because everybody's so busy. The fastest way to look in the index or something for a text talking about what the Buddha said about gratitude. Do you know, Mrs. Sindhu, any idea?
Actually, I normally go to Sutta Central or Access to Insight and search for a word, and wherein it shows all the Sutta references. Or else, uh, we can also see at the indexes of the Samyutta Nikaya or Anguttara Nikaya, wherein the suttas have been like for the family session regarding the sons, regarding daughters, regarding how the woman should be. Uh, the index has some divisions where you can find good friend as a topic, and all the suttas regarding in that Nikaya will be given in the bracket.
Okay. Great. Thanks for the tip. So I found Access to Insight. I just Google, and then there's like Katanu Sutta. Katanu is gratitude. So there's a sutta called Katanu Sutta. So maybe I'll put a request in the WhatsApp.
Yes.
It's from Anguttara Nikaya, very short only. Anguttara Nikaya 2.31. Let me put this in the chat.
Actually, what we can do is we can actually read the sutta now because it's a short sutta.
Yeah, it's a short sutta. This one though is by Thanisaro Bhikkhu. Just 1 minute. Let me look Sutta Central if they have other people can help as well. I'm just quickly Googling Sutta Central, Anguttara Nikaya. If anyone is faster than me, then please share in the chat. The one that I just shared is translated by Thanisaro Bhikkhu. How do I? Okay.
On the right corner, it will show the parallels where you can find all the other translations.
Oh, would you mind sharing it in the chat, Mrs. Sindhu? I'm not very.
I actually have hard copy, so I'm looking at it now.
Oh, yeah, I have hard copy too. Yeah, maybe we just read from. I'll just grab my hard copy. Just 1 sec.
0.31. Okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm just looking. 2.31. Bhikkhu Bodhi.
It is in page number 152.
152. Huh? Wait.
2.31, right? I'm just has Bhikkhu Bodhi translation.
Yeah, I'm trying to compare with the Access to Insight. Okay. I think it's same-minded, 32 bracket 1. So 31 is not. Yeah. Sorry. 32.
32,
because the Thanisaro Bhikkhu, he translate it as person of no integrity and person of integrity. Bhikkhu Bodhi, Bhikkhu Bodhi just translate as bad person and good person. It's much easier.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. This is the translation. AN 2.32. I have shared it on the chat as well. Same-minded. It's a short sutta from Anguttara Nikaya, AN 2.32. Bhikkhus, I will teach you the plane of the bad person and the plane of the good person. Listen and attend closely. I will speak. Yes, Bhante, those bhikkhus replied. The Blessed One said this. And what is the plane of the bad person? A bad person is ungrateful and unthankful. For ingratitude and unthankfulness are extolled by the bad. Ingratitude and unthankfulness belong entirely to the plane of the bad person. And what is the plane of a good person? A good person is grateful and thank you. For gratitude and thankfulness are extolled by the good. Gratitude and thankfulness belong entirely to the plane of good person. This is the short sutta, and
Yeah.
it's very good actually. Thank you, Mai, for sharing this sutta. And there are so many short suttas wherein it has so much meaning, and we come to know what should be done and what should not be done. And these short suttas help us a lot to understand the world in a better way and to make us be a good person.
Mm. I find it interesting that three bhikkhus give three different translations. So Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation is just bad person, good person, simple, right? Bhikkhu Sujato's translation is untrue person and true person. Then Thanissaro Bhikkhu is like person of no integrity and person of integrity. But I guess the point here is it's very strong, no? What the
Yes.
Buddha is pointing out here is, well, okay, I could be reading this wrong, but just based on such a short reading, the Buddha just is saying that if we don't practice gratitude and thankfulness, we are a person of either bad person or no integrity or untrue. I think that's a very strong categorization. No? Am I the only
Yes.
one here?
No, no. Actually, it's very true that what the way you are taking the understanding from this sutta, it's very true, and it's the place where the Buddha has asked us to practice gratitude, thankfulness, and being kind to the people. And at the end of the day, as Sister Kema said, it is also a way of practice. Even while initiating the feeling of loving kindness, there is a three ways that we can bring up the feeling of loving kindness. One is by the way of memories. One is by imagining a baby we are holding and looking into their eyes. And the third way is bringing up by the feeling of gratefulness, by the feeling of gratitude towards whatever we have in our life. And it's really helpful towards the beginners where they keep practicing the loving kindness to bring up, wherein they can imbue this gratitude in their practice. And when we keep practicing, gratitude comes by on the path along with us. And it's also in one way being kind to ourselves rather than being harshly towards whatever we are experiencing. Sometimes we do not accept it and we kind of behave in an old habitual tendency. Rather, if we are gratitude and then we accept, okay, at least I have this, I'm happy for whatever I'm having, then they will not have that old habitual way of looking at things.
Yeah, totally agree. Actually, last night I was just having a conversation with a friend. And because of what's happening in the world today, our social media, whatever we watch, we are bombarded by, all these news of war, etc. And we have to constantly remind ourselves to filter it out, like pay no attention to it, and remind ourselves to constantly practice gratitude for, for example, we are living in good society, or we have our family, or we have good neighbors, or good workplace, etc. So I guess we were chatting to each other about the importance of reminding ourselves that constantly, because we are constantly also bombarded by negativity. So it's almost like we have to use this practice as a shield, in addition to keeping our 6 precepts, of course. That is the protection. The more we keep it, the more we are protected. But then this one will provide that extra protection, if you like. The other thing that I thought was very interesting in the Access to Insight, Thanissaro Bhikkhu's translation, just the sutta that was just read is paired with the next sutta on how we cannot easily repay mother and father.
Yes.
And I thought it was very interesting that the Access to Insight translation, these two were paired together, but not, well, at least Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, they are on the same page. Bhikkhu Sujato is separates it. But in not just Buddhism, someone I know, so in the Chinese community, the Confucianism belief is still very strong. I'm not sure about Indian community today, maybe similar, but the teaching on Confucianism is almost disappeared, but now they're trying to revive it in schools. And there's a lot of emphasis there also about mother and father, and the importance of gratitude and respect to mother and father, and how important it is to take care of mother and father when they're ill or sick or old. I remembered a colleague once told me he had to make a difficult decision for his career. So we were working in Kuala Lumpur. This was a few years ago. So Kuala Lumpur is big city, right, where most of the job opportunity are, and he's a good worker. But his mother, I think, had cancer or something. Eventually, she passed away. So his mother and father are from a small town up north. So a small town, there's not a lot of job opportunity. But I remembered he made the decision to move up north, not back to the small town, but the city near the small town. And he said to me, for me, although it seems to other people that, these weren't his exact words, but he said, to other people, it may be a difficult decision to give up a good job here and to go there. But for me, it's so important to support my parents, because his mindset is, if I take care of my parents, my job will be smooth. Like, I will have a good job. I won't have much trouble at work. I will have good boss to support me, etc., etc. So he had that very strong belief in him. I don't know if he was Buddhist or not, but for me, I still it still remind me, because it was a very strong imprint. He had a very promising career in the company that we were working with. Like, everybody valued him highly and talk about how to, the bosses were talking about how to promote him. So he was, like highly regarded. And for him, it was very easy to just say, no, I'm just going to go back closer to mother and father. And very easy decision for him. So I just thought to share that a little bit. Yeah.
Actually, in Anguttara Nikaya also there are so many suktas wherein Buddha says how we should take care of our parents, how we need to respect them, what's the actual respect, what's the practice. There are few suktas in the beginning as well. There is in the index, as I said, it says parents or mother and father, wherein there's a set of suktas belonging to parents. And when I first got this book, then I started like going to the index and starting reading only that particular topic which I was interested. And the way the suktas quoted that mother and father are the Brahma, uh, so we need to take care of them and we need to establish them in the path of the Dhamma. If not in the path of the Dhamma, at least ask them to keep their precepts and then practice some meditation. And if possible, maybe they can take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. That would be great. And there are so many suktas actually. Even this next sukta that you have just pointed out, establishing them in faith, in virtuous behavior, in generosity and wisdom. This is the way that we can repay them the whatever they have given us. That's the only best way that we can repay that what they have given. And it's so beautiful that the Buddha has said, even if you take care of the parents, like even if they are in bed, if you clean their, take care of them in any difficult situation, you cannot repay them. You can repay them only if we like have them come into the path and experience this, train their mind and have to believe that this is the path. This is the only way that we can repay them.
Just a suggestion, Mrs. Sindhu, maybe another time when you are free for a Sunday session, maybe you can guide us through a few suttas on how to repay mother and father. What do you think? Is that a good idea?
Yes, I think actually what happens is because we are practicing the path, it's not like we only stick to the this or that, but it's the teaching that's the importance. Any teaching that we are going to read will going to help us in our practice. I just feel in that way. Any of the part of this from this Nikaya, from the teachings of the Buddha, is helpful. It will be beneficial, even if it's just a short sutta. You see, now we have read this short sutta. It has so deep meaning. We didn't even know that we are going to read that sutta today. It all depends, like whatever sutta you take, it will link to our practice in some or other way. It will help us on the path.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I think the time is also up. Do we still have time? No.
We are flexible. Does anyone have any questions? So we have a few regulars down in today. We have Pai, we have Paul, Dr. Veera, Dr. Roy. Does anyone have any questions? If it's not convenient, you can also type in the chat window if you have any questions. Well, if not, then we can end tonight's session.
Yes. May suffering ones be suffering free, and fear stuck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all the beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth Devas and Nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Mrs. Sindhu, for guiding us through today. Thank you, everyone, for dialing in. Have a pleasant week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.